his wings. An article in the National Geographic several years ago provided a penetrating picture of God's love. After a forest fire in Yellowstone National Park, forest rangers began their trek up a mountain to assess the damage. One ranger found a bird literally petrified, Jock, in ashes, perched on the ground at the base of a tree. Somewhat sickened by the eerie sight, he knocked over the bird with a stick. When he struck it, 3 tiny chicks scurried from under the dead mother's wings. The loving mother, keenly aware of impending disaster, had carried her offspring to the base of the tree and gathered them under her wings. She could have flown away to safety, but had refused to abandon her babies. When the blaze arrived and the heat scorched her small body, the mother had remained steadfast because she had been willing to die so those under the covering of her wings would live. Likewise, Christ gave his life to save us from a disastrous life apart from him. This past Friday, in a blend of contemplation and celebration, we recognize that Good Friday is the Friday that Jesus would be brutally murdered on the cross. Jesus was brutally murdered on an old, rugged cross to restore and to reestablish a relationship between humankind and God himself, simply because he loved us. If you've spent any time in church, maybe one day, or maybe you've attended a Sunday school, perhaps this scripture rings true to you. John 3:16 says it this way: "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and his only Son, that whoever would make a choice to believe in him would not die, but rather have life eternal." But today, rather than talk about the agony he obviously experienced in the hall of the governor, or the pain of carrying his cross up the Via Dolorosa Road, that road that has been labeled the road of grief, the path of suffering, I want us to focus on the words of Jesus from the cross, not the bruises from his beating. Jesus made 7 statements on the cross that I believe is profitable, beneficial for all of our lives when we face a difficult day, a difficult week, a difficult month, and perhaps even a difficult year. So I want to talk about, for just a few moments, with the time that we have left, a cross life. A cross life. Jesus made some statements on Good Friday. Well, it was good for us, but it was an unbelievably difficult day for him. Dr. Jack Hayford wrote a book years ago called How to Live Through a Bad Day. 7 powerful insights from Christ's words. This morning, I want to take an attempt of use that theme of that book and put that book into my own words. So it's already been a robust day, so if you don't mind, I want to jump right into it. Is that all right?
Yes, yes.
First point is this: forgive everyone who's causing you hurt. Somebody say forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Forgive everyone who's causing you hurt. Luke 23, verse 34 says this: Father, Jesus says this, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. I find that to be an oxymoron. I find that to be a contradiction of terms. Forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. When I read this text, Adrian, it's pretty clear that they know exactly what they're doing. But Jesus makes this statement: forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Here Jesus is hanging innocently between 2 criminals. having spikes nearly 6 feet long plunged into his carpals and plunged into his ankles. Yet he communicates, forgive them, for they don't really know what they are doing. The timing of his forgiveness, to me, Shanice, is amazing. Not only is he hanging on the cross between two criminals, not only has he had spikes placed through his carpals and through his ankles, we discover that he has been betrayed by two of the men that he personally handpicked to walk with him and who he personally invested in for 3 years straight. So not only was he hanging there on the cross, he was betrayed by one for a few dollars. And the other one, who was the leader of his gang, denied him publicly on 3 different occasions. But not only was he denied, not only was he hanging, he was flogged, which is a crude way of beating somebody. History tells us that you had to be flogged 9 times in order to die. The Bible tells us that Jesus was flagged 8 times. So not only was he betrayed, not only was he beaten to the point of death, not only was he hanging between 2 criminals, he says, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. And here's the context. He is saying this, according to the Greek translation, he is saying this, Mook, over and over again. Lord, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. And if you understand the cross, you don't die because of the physicality. You die because of asphyxiation. Because your body didn't have the capacity to hold a body that's broken. And so they die by suffering. By suffering, suffocating. So here he is. Can you get the picture? Forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. Forgive them. No. Forgive them. He is saying this over and over again. Some of us are still holding grudges, man, from high school. Some of us can't forgive when somebody cut us off in a lunch line. Right. Some of us get ticked off when we get cut over when we're driving. Forgiveness frees the one who is being hurt. Forgiveness is mastering the moment, not the moment mastering you. When you forgive those who seek to hurt you, you diffuse their anger and yours because it seeks to attach itself to you. Some of y'all were excited about coming to Easter service this morning. Some of y'all who've been coming every Sunday, some of y'all for the first time, y'all were excited to come to Easter service this morning until you walked in and you saw somebody. And your whole emotion changed. Your whole posture tensed up because you have refused to let go whatever you've been holding on to. Some of us are still unforgiving because our kids play together against one another in Pop Warner. Some of us mad because their child scored a touchdown and now it's getting in the game. Some of us are still wrestling with the ability to forgive. Unforgiveness keeps the one who has been hurt imprisoned. Can I suggest to you that you need to forgive this morning? Look at somebody and say, let it go. Look at somebody else and say, let it go. Look at somebody and say, let it go. Tell somebody else to forgive. And secondly, you have to use your resources to assist someone in a similar situation than you are. You have to leverage your resources to assist someone in a similar situation. Somebody say ministry. Ministry. In Luke 23, verse 43, Jesus says this, I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise. The criminals on both sides of Jesus, were experiencing exactly the same pain and suffering as he was. But rather than focusing on his own pain, he extends his concern to those who are struggling with infinitely less resources than he had. In a bad day, can you get this? It's important to recognize that others are or may be having just as a bad day as you are, if not worse. We can sometimes become so preoccupied with our own problems that we miss the opportunity to serve someone else in theirs. Y'all miss that. We can sometimes become so preoccupied with our own drama that we miss the opportunity to help somebody who has their own. A few months ago here, we had a guest artist who performed artistically for us. He danced and then he did a little singing. But while he was dancing and singing, he gave his testimony. Testimony is somebody who's been tested by some things, somebody who's had their faith tried. And this young man of 24 was giving his testimony. And in his testimony, while he was dancing, we discovered that he was homeless. We discovered that he didn't have a job. And if you don't have a job and you're homeless, there are some other material things that you probably don't have access to. And here's what happened. Before service was over, one of our partners, Marge, left the service as soon as, I don't know if she said goodbye, hello to anybody, goodbye to anybody. I don't know if she hooked nobody's neck. As soon as service was over, Marge jetted out of the sanctuary. She went to the mall, purchased some brand new materials, went home, purchased stuff that had tags still on them, brought them back, packaged in a neat bag, gave him $60, found out that he didn't have a job, made a call and a connection to the city where he lived at, got him a job that he's well working on now. And I need you to know that Mars did this raising 4 kids, helping to assist the granddaughter, traveling back and forth to Westchester for work, had a transportation problem, and still managed to make sure that all the kids got what they needed and where they needed to be at the same time. This is what we talked about when we say not focusing on your own stuff. Not being preoccupied by your own mess, but being willing to help somebody because you can identify with their situation. Here is Jesus, hanging on a cross, innocently between 2 criminals. And the crowd has begun to harass him, saying, you saved yourself, you saved others, but you can't save yourself. Not only is the crowd harassing him, but now the soldiers get into it. And they say, you're supposed to be the king of the Jews? And they give him cheap wine and drink to quench his thirst. But not only that, the criminals get into it. One criminal said, man, if you're supposed to be all of that, get yourself off this cross, and while you're at it, bring us with you. But then the other criminal, something broke in his heart. Something snapped in his disposition. Something snapped or broke or settled in his mental. And he looked at the other guy and he said, don't you fear God? We are rightfully on this cross and we'll pay our punishment. But this man has done nothing. Then he says this, when you enter into your kingdom, remember me. Here's what I've discovered, man, when I was reading this text. Jesus never responded to the criminal that came in sideways. Some of y'all give too much attention to foolishness. Some of y'all respond too often and too much to foolishness. Jesus never responded to the criminal that came at him wrong. Some of us have become experts at arguing on Facebook. Some of us have become enraged when we engage in Twitter. Some of us even had the nerve to think that North Carolina should have won. I ain't calling no names out. Jesus never gave attention to the one who came in him sideways. So tell somebody, stop giving attention to foolishness. But here's what he did do. Jesus takes the time to address someone who is in the same dilemma as he is. He extends his concerns to someone in a similar situation, but who lacked the ability to do anything about it. We have to recognize that there are others who are experiencing what we are experiencing, but without the same resources to impact this situation for the better. Sometimes we realize this, Katrina, that as bad as our situation is, it could be just a little bit worse. Amen. Jesus takes the time to assist somebody in a worse situation than he is. Can I push one more? Yeah. In John 19, Jesus says, dear woman, here is your son. Then he says to the disciple, dear son, here is your mother. Jesus is surrounded by chaos, Cynthia, drama all around him. Tasha, he's being harassed by the crowd. He's being teased by the soldiers. He's in between bickering of criminals on the cross, and yet he is concerned about his mother's personal plight. And he gives John domestic responsibility to take care of her. Can I give you this principle? Take care of those who are close to you. Make sure that your loved ones are good. We have a tendency to assume that those who are closest to us understand the dilemma that we're in and have the ability to absorb what we're going through, Neville. Jesus doesn't say, because I'm going through a bad day, Bernie, everybody else should be going through a bad day. Can I caution you? Don't transmit your trauma. Don't transmit your drama. Jesus was going through a bad day. And yet, he had the gall to make sure that his mother was good. Because we're having a difficult day doesn't excuse us, Adrian, from our personal responsibility. Amen. I don't care how long your day was at work. Your child needs to eat. I don't care what kind of baby mama drama you got going on. You got to take care of your child. I don't care what you're wrestling with. Your money can't be funny when it comes to making sure that your family is good. He interrupts salvation. He interrupts the opportunity for us to know him personally to make sure that his mama was good. Somebody say, take care of your loved ones.
Take care of your loved ones.
Somebody say, take care of the ones you love.
Take care of the ones you love.
Matthew 27:46 says this. Jesus, in anguish, says, my God, Tiana, why have you abandoned me? Being an educator formerly and now in full-time ministry, I've come to understand the impacts of abandonment. Abandonment is a serious issue. It impacts our self-esteem. It causes anxiety. We develop detachment and trust issues. Jesus says, my God, why have you abandoned me? Can I say this to you? Here's the fourth one. Direct your hard questions to God. When you talk to God, it creates an emotional space. It provides an emotional safety net for you to be transparent. He already knows what's in your head. He simply wants to hear what's in your heart. Every word up to this point has been others-centered. Everything that he has said up until this point was demonstrating a concern about other people. He said, forgive them over and over again, Letitia. He wanted to make sure that those who were in a similar situation had what they needed. He wanted to make sure that his mother was good. But now he turns his focus inward. Wow. Some of you need to know, in order for you to be a blessing to somebody else, you got to make sure your own game is tight. Okay. Sometimes you can't help nobody if your situation ain't no better. Wow. Jesus focuses attention on himself. It ain't selfish to make sure that you're good. I get an opportunity to travel quite a bit. And regardless of the airline that I'm on, the presentation is the same. They say in case of an emergency, take your oxygen mask and put it on yourself before you make an attempt to assist others. Some of us are spending too much time trying to save the world, and our own house is a mess. Some of us spending too much time trying to be good outside of the house, and our own house is a mess. Some of us trying to save other people's relationships, and ours ain't tight. Some of us trying to tell somebody how to spend their money when our bank account is on zero. Jesus takes time to focus in on himself. My God, why have you abandoned me? Some of us have relational attachment issues now because we're still struggling with abandonment. Some of us can't make relationships with other dudes because we're struggling with the guy that left. Some of us can't make relationships with women because we saw too many coming in and out of our house. Some of us are struggling with attachment issues now. But I want to suggest to you, one of the ways you deal with it is to direct your hard questions to God. Can I push it one more? We're about to be out here. Be human enough to acknowledge you have a human need. Somebody say humility. Be human enough to acknowledge that you have a need. John 19:28, Jesus says that I am thirsty. Here Jesus asks for a drink because he wants to clear his throat for the statement he's about to make. He knows the statement that he's about to make is big. This statement that he's about to make affirms why he was born in the first place. These perhaps are the two biggest words that he will ever say. Can I tell you this? Let me say this to you. Some things that you are going through, you're not going to be able to go through them on your own. No man is an island unto himself, but all of us are a part of the continent, a piece of the main. Here's what I've discovered. Somebody said this, it ain't original. If you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. Here is Jesus, the Lord of the universe. God made flesh. And yet, in order for him to fulfill what God has called him to do, in order for him to do what his Father has asked him to do, he needs assistance. In order for his purpose to be fulfilled, he needs some help. Some of us are stuck in the same place because we refuse to acknowledge that we need help. Some of us are in the same place because we want to acknowledge that we need some assistance. Here is the Father, here's the Master of the universe, about to make the largest statement of his ministry up until this point. And he can't do it unless somebody gives him something to drink to quench his thirst. Can you imagine? How many of us have been trying to do stuff without any help? How many of us have been trying to make our own way and we refuse to ask anybody? How many of you ever used this statement? I got it. How many of you ever say this statement? I'm good. No, I'm good. I got it. I'm all right. I'm all right. How many else say I'm all right? I'm all right. Jesus didn't say I'm all right. Jesus said, I am thirsty. And before I make this a major announcement, I am going to need some assistance. Can you look at somebody and tell them to get unstuck? Yes. Tell somebody to ask for help. We're wrapping up now. Be confident, number 6. There is a purpose and an end. Jesus says in John 19, it's finished. Be confident that there is a purpose and an end. This was a prophetic statement. This was a visionary statement. This was a predictive statement. This was a foretelling statement. He says it is finished. Every pain a believer experiences has a purpose and an end. Can I suggest to you, no matter what you're going through, it will work out. It will happen. You will come out of it. You will get over it. You will get through it. All things do work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. The present suffering does not compare to the surpassing glory of what it is that's coming. It is finished. Can I just suggest to you that it's finished? It ain't over. It's just finished. It's a picture of the not yet. Where you are is not the example of where you're going to be. He said it is finished, but it ain't over. Some of us find ourselves in a situation and we get stuck because we think it's over. Eyes have not seen, nor have ears heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man all of the good things that he has in store, not for me, but for you. So when we say it's finished, we're not saying it's over. We're saying that we're in a place of a not yet. So what you're witnessing doesn't reflect where I'm going to be. I know my bank account is low now, but it's just temporary. I know that job situation ain't tight right now, but it's just temporary. I know my car a little raggedy right now, but it's just temporary. I know my mom is sick right now, but it's just temporary. I know I'm going through some things right now, but it's just temporary. He said it is finished. It is not over. It was a predictive statement of what is to come. Look at somebody and say it's finished, but it ain't over. It's finished, but it ain't over. Can I tell you finished? Can I tell you what finished is? Can I tell you what's not over? Can I tell you what it means to graduate in 1987? Well, can I tell you what it took 5 years to get a 2-year degree? Can I tell you that it took 14 years to get a 4-year degree? Can I tell you that it took 22 years to get a master's degree? It was finished, but it wasn't over. Can I tell you that when I was getting my bachelor's, my youngest son was being born? Can I tell you I worked no time, sometimes part-time, sometimes no time at all? Can I tell you I lost cars? Can I tell you that I lost houses? Can I tell you what it means to have my bank account on zero? Yet I understood that God had called me out of education and into ministry. And whatever it took to do it, that's what I was going to do. And so for me, it wasn't over. It was just finished. Can I tell you, some 22 years later, my family ain't missing no meal? Can I tell you 22 years later that my 2 kids are in college? Can I tell you 22 years later, one is going to private school? Can I tell you 22 years later, one came out of private school because they didn't like it. In 22 years, it wasn't over. It was just finished. Finished means it's a picture of the not yet because you have a glimpse of a preferred future. Then we're done now. Surrender yourself and your situation to God. Somebody say trust. Somebody say trust. Somebody say trust. Not only should we forgive, not only should we bless those who are in need, not only should we make sure that others are good, yes, we need to acknowledge that there are needs that we have. And then we need to be confident that there is a purpose and an end. But can I say to you also, here's what I've discovered. The end of a bad day can be the start of a long night, a long month, a long year, long years of reliving your trauma, your stuff, and your drama. And you may have been asking the question, when will this end? Can I suggest to you as candidly as I know how, the only way this ends, the only way a bad day ends, the only way a bad month ends, the only way a bad year ends, the only way a bad life ends is to give it into the hands of God and leave it there. The old saints when I was growing up down south would say this, take your burdens to the Lord and leave them there. That is how the agony of the cross ended. That's how it came to an end. This was not a statement of defeat. This was not a statement of giving up. This was not a statement of tired acceptance of trust. This, from a human perspective, Jesus was indicating a giant trust and reliability in the only one who could turn his situation around. When we learn what we learn from Jesus' resurrection is that it is important to handle our business in the right way when we're going through stuff. That when we're going through hell and when all hell breaks loose, how we respond suggests our relationship to God. Adversity doesn't make us. It reveals who we already are. Adversity doesn't tell what we're going to become. Adversity suggests here's who you already are. How you deal with trouble suggests what you're made of. How you go through your stuff determines how you are already living. Adversity reveals, it brings up what's already inside of us. Jesus, and I'm done, Jesus demonstrated for us what it means to love. Jesus communicated to us on the cross that love is not some sappy feeling. Cynthia, is not some gushy emotion. But Jesus demonstrates for us that love is the highest form of understanding. Jesus deals for us that love is the highest level of self-expression. Jesus communicates to us what love should look like in human form. The Bible says to us that we have the capacity to love because he first loved us. The only reason we know how to love is because he first loved us. Jesus communicates to us that this is what love looks like. How do you just love those who love you back? Jesus demonstrates for us what real love is. How do you love somebody who's wronged you? How do you love somebody who's played you? How do you love somebody who's done you dirty? How do you love somebody who continually talks behind your back and spread rumors? Jesus demonstrates for us that love is not an emotional feeling, but it is the highest level of understanding. That's why he can say, in the midst of being teased, in the midst of being jeered, in the midst of being called out, in the midst of being beat, he can say, forgive, for they know not what they do. We stand this morning forgiven because somebody loved us that much. There's an old song that says, they hung him high, they stretched him wide, but that's not how the story ends. 3 days later, he rose again. That's love. That's love. Can I ask you a question this morning? When was the last time you demonstrated love? When is the last time you extended yourself to love somebody? When have you loved somebody so much that it hurt you? When have you extended yourself to love somebody knowing that you might not get nothing in return? Can I ask you a question? When have you loved? Jesus teaches us how to love. This morning, I want to extend an opportunity for somebody to learn what it really means to love. I want to provide an opportunity in an old school way. We've been doing it for the last 3 weeks. We style ourselves as a contemporary ministry. I get up here and I speak for 20 to 25 minutes tops, and then I'm out of here. But this morning, I want to provide an opportunity to do this thing the old school way. If you've ever been to church before, they have an altar call. They call you forward. I know Jamel has already challenged me to do it a different way today, but Jamel, I just feel like doing it the old school way. Every now and again, when you ever play sports, and they're trying out positions, and you already told everybody in the neighborhood you want to play running back, but you ain't never played before, and they call, they say, who plays running back? You raise your hand and you go forward, not knowing how to take a hit. What Jesus is saying, here's an opportunity for you to say, I want to play on your team. Here's an opportunity for you to play on his team. You want to wear his uniform, you want to wear his helmet, you want to wear his chin strap, you want to get the colors and the cleats that fit his team. He said, here's an opportunity to demonstrate that. Because here's what I've discovered in playing sports. The one who doesn't raise his hand typically don't get no time. The one who's standing in the back typically don't play. There are too many guys out there for the coach to be looking at for you to be quiet. So if you want to get some time, you want to get recognized, you got to show up. And so I want to offer this morning an opportunity for somebody to show up, guy or girl, for you to say, you know what? Perhaps I've been loving the wrong way. Perhaps I had a warped understanding of what love really means. Perhaps I've confused love with lust. Perhaps I've confused love with pleasure. Perhaps I've confused love with what it really means to extend myself, knowing that I might not get nothing in return. If that's you this morning, can I ask you to do something that's old school? Can I ask you to come forward? This is not about you or the person beside you. This is not about the person beside you, in front of you, or behind you. This is about you and the God that made you. This is about your relationship with him. Who will be bold enough to come forward? Who will be bold enough to say, you know what? Like I told my brother before he gave up the crack life and the drug game, I said to him, why don't you try this? If it doesn't work, you can always go back to doing what you were doing. 3 years running, he ain't went back. And that was the last time he got locked up. Is there somebody in here this morning who would want to make a decision? Maybe you already made a decision to follow Christ. Maybe you know him for yourself, but you've just broken fellowship. You just kind of walk in a different way. And you say, you know what, I need to get reconnected to a community that's trying to live on purpose. All of us are going somewhere, but only some of us are going there on purpose. And this is an opportunity to go somewhere on purpose with a bunch of brothers and sisters who are trying to make a difference in this community. We're not playing church. We're not having church. We're being the church. Is there somebody this morning? Is there somebody willing to make a decision this morning? I tell you what, if you say, you know what, I still ain't bold enough to walk forward after service is concluded, if you say, you know what, I'm considering making that decision. It's something that I want to think about. Let's have some conversation. Let's do that. Because I believe the Lord is calling you. There's somebody in here this morning. You're sitting on your seat, but you want to get up. It's a little awkward, it's a little uncomfortable for you. I want to challenge you this morning to be bold, to step out. I would allow my competition to kick in and say, we're going to run a 4 weeks straight with somebody coming up. This will be the first week ain't nobody came out. That competition that came out of it. But it's all good, though, if nobody comes up. We love you. Hey, my brother. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. I see right here, man. I appreciate it. Is there somebody else? Ain't no pressure. Let me tell you, man. I said my brother got locked up. He did his hustling game. The difference between me and my brother is I didn't get caught. That's the difference. Hustle was his family. It really was. I just didn't get caught. So I am always excited when people make this decision. Some of y'all know the story that the first time that me and my brother experienced cocaine, we were together. He was my youngest brother. And we had always said, we said we'd never do cocaine, Shanice. Lynn Bias was my favorite basketball player. He had my hair cut like his. I said I would never do it. Never. Because he died of a heart attack right after he got drafted. Isn't that right, Adrian? And here we were in the car with some brothers, smoking and drinking, weed, lacing and whatever. Lacing it with some substance. I don't know what it was lacing with. Smoking it. And this guy takes a cigarette and taps all of the tobacco out of it and laces it completely with cocaine. We called it a ruler down south. I don't know what they call it anywhere else. And when that thing came around, as bad as my youngest brother was, graveyard pimp is what they called me. All they had a reputation as a knucklehead. But that day, he looked at me like only a little brother can look at an older brother. And he tapped me as I was in the front of our car, as to say, if you're going to do that. And when it came around, guess what? I hit it. And I passed it to him. You fast forward 20 years, he spent life in and out of jail. He spent life in and out of federal prison. He spent life in and out of everywhere, living on corners, homeless. He still don't have a home today, except for the one that his new wife is giving him. He spent his life with us raising his kids because of the decisions that he made. In the meantime, my life took a different turn. 14 years to graduate, 20 years to get a graduate, but I still did it, and yet his life looked different. I can't explain God's grace, but I know it's real. I can't interpret his favor, but I know it's good. And so when I stand here and I see people come forward, it has meaning to me. Amen. Because the Bible said, if not for God's grace, there go I. That could have been me spending 20 plus years in federal prison. It could have been me spending time in and out of jail. It could have been somebody else raising my kids. But God's grace is more than sufficient. He's so good. So this has meaning to me. I don't know how to play church. I don't know how to do church. I just know how to live like I'm trying to live. That's it. And so I'm so excited that you guys decided to come forward. We'll have some conversation in just a few moments. It'll be really brief because I think they got some dynamic stuff set up for us out there. And I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to eat. Make sure that nobody gets 2 or 3 helpings, though. Make sure we kind of chew them because we got a lot of folks here today. So I appreciate you so much. Can we all stand together? Oh, yes. Go ahead and take a seat. My bad. No, it's not. Can we take a seat really quick? We're typically out by 10.